But the guy completely missed one huge detail: my girlfriend was literally allergic to any breathing guy who wasn't me. He threw himself straight into the pool, acting out a dramatic fake drowning just to beg her for help. But she pulled the ultimate reverse card. She scooped me right up, spun around, and dashed in the total opposite direction. Absolutely no saving him. She said she'd get totally tainted if she even touched him. What if I stopped wanting her? She was basically a terminal stage 4 romantic. 2 months in, she wanted an engagement. 6 months in, she literally tried dragging me to the marriage registry just for security. She even signed her downtown luxury penthouse over to me and forced all her bank cards into my hands. Purely terrified of rejection, she ended up ambushing me with this massive public confession. Then Caspian, my highly annoying half-brother, completely ruined the mood, shouting out that his big brother was getting married. He asked how I could hide this major news, wondering if I still held a silly grudge. Caspian is a year younger. My mother passed early, and his mom basically moonwalked right into our home to take over. Once Caspian arrived, their business boomed and good luck followed them. They all worshipped him like a walking lucky charm, but he was never quite satisfied. He saw me, the eldest son, as an absolute eyesore aiming for his inheritance, so he constantly tried framing me. Because of his award-worthy acting, my dad and stepmom completely gave up on me. For instance, on the exact day of my college exams, Caspian spiked my breakfast with heavy laxatives to ruin my scores. With zero proof, my dad claimed I was framing his precious youngest boy. Totally done with them, I packed up for college and completely cut ties with that absolute circus of a family. Seraphina squeezed my hand to comfort me, gently asking if this guy was my little brother. Pulling myself back to reality, I gave a stiff nod. Caspian stared straight at her flawless, gorgeous movie star face, which had zero makeup on it, by the way, and his eyes nearly popped right out. Flashing a greasy grin, he reached out his hand, introducing himself as Caspian and calling her his sister-in-law. He claimed he's a year younger, exactly 185 centimeters tall, a lean 69 kilograms, and loves basketball. He muttered this while stepping way too close into her personal space. You can see it on his face. His toxic urge to steal my things is kicking in. Seraphina elegantly frowned, stepped right behind my back, and loudly whispered to me. She told me never to diet because looking like a bony spare rib is ugly and a health risk. Caspian instantly froze. His supposedly great body and heavily gelled hair did not even register as a blip on her radar. I laughed and playfully scolded her, telling her to be polite instead of calling people spare ribs. Skinny is trendy, but she quickly retorted that it's still a major health hazard. Her voice wasn't booming, but the volume was so perfectly pitched that Caspian heard every single word. Only then did she pretend to notice him standing there, flashing a fake smile. She introduced herself as Seraphina, while Caspian's beady little eyes darted around. I instantly knew the sneaky little gremlin was plotting some sort of drama. Sure enough, he casually dropped a bomb while pretending to be completely innocent. He asked if we broke up, claiming we met the parents in high school and seemed like soulmates forever. Unbelievable, this guy's nerve is unreal. Let's look at the facts. I never actually had a high school girlfriend, let alone met anyone's parents. The truth was, a crazy stalker followed me constantly, forcing the school and our parents to step in. And the best part, my dad blamed me, saying if I wasn't asking for it, she wouldn't chase me. Standing there calmly, Seraphina just deadpanned with a completely straight face. She asked who doesn't have an ex, and why dating should automatically lead to marriage anyway. She casually told him to go ahead and loosen his ancient mind. Caspian tried to play homewrecker but got completely shut down. Twitching in anger, he offered a fake apology. He claimed he was just being direct and swore he meant absolutely nothing by it. Right on cue, his eyes welled up, looking like a dam of tears about to burst. This was his ultimate weapon against our dad. One look at those puppy dog eyes, and any normal elder would immediately melt. Too bad for him. Seraphina was built entirely different. She wasn't buying it. Not one bit. We are going to eat now, so goodbye. Hearing this, Caspian instantly slapped a bright smile back on his face, claiming it was a coincidence since he hadn't eaten either. He suggested we go together, calling it his way of making things up to his dear brother, which was absolute garbage. Tagging along was just a calculated move to ruin my appetite, and Seraphina's expression instantly frosted over. Ready to reject him, completely, but I gently squeezed her hand, let him tag along. Honestly, if we ditched him, he'd just deploy some other unhinged stalking tactic. The kid was the poster boy for never giving up on being a total pest. You won't believe this, the moment we hit the restaurant, Caspian completely ignored boundaries and glued himself to the seat right next to her. He actually had the audacity to play the considerate angel. He asked if she minded him squeezing in, claiming I loved sitting alone and always preferred my personal space. As he said this, he wiggled his chair even closer, making Seraphina instantly pinch her nose, stand right up, and offer a quick apology. She claimed she had a lethal allergy to cheap cologne, then immediately relocated to the seat right next to me. Of course, I knew she had absolutely zero allergies to perfume. Soon, the waiters began bringing out the food. Among the dishes was a steaming bowl of premium seafood congee, which Seraphina had specially ordered for me. But the exact nanosecond that bowl hit the table, Caspian shamelessly yanked it right in front of himself, saying he absolutely loved seafood congee. He even thanked her for ordering it specifically for him. Before that smug smile could even fade, Seraphina reached right over, snatched the bowl back, and set it in front of me, stating it was only for Evander. Caspian's smile completely vaporized, looking like he'd just swallowed a live, buzzing fly, though he recovered quickly. His mouth curled into a fake generous smirk as he agreed my body had been weak like a wet paper towel since childhood. He mocked my weak kidneys and overall health, saying I definitely needed that extra nourishment. Seraphina rolled her eyes so hard she nearly saw her brain, snapping that Evander is 10 times more ripped than he'd ever be. He doesn't need nourishment, he simply likes the taste. She added that this signature dish was from her family's own 5-star hotel, turning Caspian's face a brilliant shade of Shrek green at the massive wealth flex. She explained that when we first dated, I was actually pretty skinny and tanned. Her parents took a quick look at me, and their hearts completely broke. So they ordered a daily bowl of this congee, which, combined with gym training, made me the absolute masterpiece I am today. Seraphina kept right on talking, totally ignoring the fact that Caspian's face had now turned the ugly color of a bruised plum. She took a few quick bites of her food, then aggressively yanked me up by my arm. She announced we were heading to the pool to practice swimming, and we definitely wouldn't be entertaining any unwanted company. Back in our hotel suite upstairs, Seraphina slipped into her swimsuit with lightning speed. Under the sparkling ceiling lights, her flawless pale skin and incredible figure were a total sight to behold, and I definitely took a few extra respectful stares. She happily told me to hurry up and put on my swim trunks, but looking at the incredibly tight, dangerously small piece of fabric she was dangling from her fingers, I knew she was plotting something devious. I lied and shooed her away, saying I needed the restroom, and once she left, I swapped that crazy tactical thong for normal trunks. I grabbed a comfortably loose pair and strolled down to the pool. Earlier, Seraphina had specifically demanded the hotel manager clear out the entire pool area. Yet when I arrived, some unauthorized male silhouette was already lurking near my girlfriend, and yep, of course, it was Caspian. Don't you just love how persistent this guy is? Caspian whined in a sweet voice, begging her to teach him how to swim. The swim trunks he chose for himself basically looked like a microscopic cheerleader skirt. They were offensively short, aggressively tight, and visually disturbing. But what the fool didn't realize was that Seraphina maintained strict boundaries. She was actively maintaining a strict half-meter quarantine zone between them. She dryly stated she was exclusively tutoring my brother, who is terrified of the water and won't get in. He claimed he was totally different and completely fearless, boasting that he'd learn in seconds. Before finishing his monologue, Caspian miraculously slipped on the wet tiles, launching his body straight toward Seraphina like a heat-seeking missile. Looking at his trajectory, his big plan was to crash right into her, fall into the pool together, and spark a classic slow-motion romance trope. Too bad, Seraphina had the lightning-fast reflexes of an angry ninja. Predicting his nonsense, she casually stepped aside with perfect agility. Splash! Caspian faceplanted into the water with a massive, stiff belly flop, kicking up a literal tsunami of a splash. Seeing this, Seraphina pretty much moonwalked backward a few steps, absolutely terrified of catching even a microscopic drop of splashback, treating that pool water like it had suddenly turned into toxic waste. I bit my tongue so hard to keep from laughing out loud. But with some crazy sixth sense, Seraphina whipped her head around and caught me immediately. She marched right over, locked her arm in mine, and started dragging me straight toward the exit. She grumbled that I was a heartless traitor. She said she waited forever for me while I just stood here enjoying the show, puffing her cheeks out in adorable fake anger like a little pufferfish. I quickly patted her hand to calm her down. I swear on my life, I seriously just got here. Seraphina looked down at my super modest swim trunks, and her voice instantly went cold, asking why I was not wearing the masterpiece she picked out for me. Fearing my slightly annoyed girlfriend, I quickly went into damage control. No way, I told her. I totally love them, but they were honestly just a bit too dangerously tight. If my younger brother saw me wearing those, he would think I was just flexing to destroy his confidence. Seriously, look at Caspian out there splashing like a broken seal, desperately begging his sister-in-law not to just let him drown in cold blood. I cannot swim. Save me, he screamed, waving his arms around like an absolute lunatic. He mixed his loud cries with dramatic gasping and clearly fake gulps of pool water. Honestly, you had to respect the hustle. This dude was literally risking major chlorine poisoning just to grab Seraphina's attention. Fun fact, this absolute clown literally won a silver medal in the Junior City Swimming Championships years ago, but now, He is apparently terrified of water. Honestly, his drowning drama was so wild you would think he never saw a bath. What he completely forgot was actual non-swimmers like me. Forget the deep end. If you throw me into the 1.2-meter shallow kids section, I will literally choke on water and forget how legs work. Seraphina looked at me with a tiny hint of actual concern, asking if my brother really could not swim. I gently patted her hair and told her he was totally clueless. Go fish him out, okay? Hearing that cue, a look of pure victory crossed Caspian's face as he kept screaming for his sister-in-law to save him. Seraphina shot me a deadly look, put her hands on her hips, and groaned that touching him would permanently pollute her aura. What if you get grossed out and break up with me? She asked. But no way was I diving in, even with a laser pointed at my head. I was about a second away from giving her a standing ovation. Talk about an absolute icon of loyalty, guys. Sadly, Caspian could not hear her over all his loud splashing, still out there fighting fake sharks and waiting for his beautiful princess to rescue him. I let out a heavy sigh. So, what are we going to do with him? We can't let a literal murder charge ruin our trip. Jokes aside, I was pretty sure Seraphina's weak doggy paddle stood zero chance against his Olympic lungs anyway. Seraphina smirked, shaking her head. Relax, I have got this. She quickly called someone, and in under a minute, a massive swim coach with a shredded 8-pack sprinted right onto the deck. Seeing that idiot flailing like a madman, a pretty creepy, eager smile spread across the giant instructor's face before he executed a beautiful swan dive into the pool. With 3 strong strokes, the giant instructor reached out to grab him. Shockingly, Caspian fought back violently like his life depended on it, because this stubborn idiot refused to give up on baiting Seraphina into the pool. Unluckily for him, all that wild thrashing made his super tight swim trunks slide tragically right off his hips. Seraphina instantly looked away, grabbed my arm, and speedwalked us out, joking that he was in very muscular hands. The massive coach roared like some anime protagonist, hitting turbo speed as he locked onto the naked Caspian. A long time later, Caspian finally crawled out of the locker room, wrapped tightly in a giant towel. With watery eyes, he glared at us like a completely broken victim, sniffling and crying out for his brother. He grumbled about me hating his guts and leaving him to die, actually believing I had forced Seraphina not to save his life. Seraphina fires back without pausing. We absolutely left you to die. Like, what dragged you out of the pool? A hot ghost. Hearing her venom, I did some quick mental math. Caspian had crashed her romantic dinner and wrecked her private pool date in one single afternoon. No wonder she was ready to choose violence. Caspian stared at her with wide eyes, looking completely in disbelief. Sister-in-law, how can you say such cold things? I know you are a beautiful, pure-hearted angel. My wicked brother must have stopped you from jumping in. Otherwise, why would I have had to knock on death's door like that? To really sell the drama, he gave us a pathetic little shiver, his pale face looking totally miserable. Please adopt me, he begged, making Seraphina scoff. I chose not to jump in entirely on my own accord. Do not flatter your delusions, she said. Then she twisted the knife, claiming she has a severe allergy to men. That is why I could never touch you. Caspian shivered, pointing a finger at her hands, which were literally glued to my bicep. Talk about hypocrisy. But before he could even speak, Seraphina deadpanned with a totally straight face. Your brother is the only exception to my immune system. Caspian's face immediately turned a lovely shade of swamp green. His brain was buffering, trying to find a comeback. And guys, she is not done cooking him yet. Dropping all politeness, she warned him, I will ignore that you snuck in here today using your brother's name. But try this stunt again, and I will literally pay that massive coach to throw you into the parking lot. Hearing about the coach, Caspian's whole body went completely stiff. Swallowing down whatever trash he was about to say, he clutched his towel and did the walk of shame out of the hotel. Right around dinner, my wicked stepmother called. She ordered me to bring Seraphina to the family house tomorrow. Judging by the toxic bitterness in her voice, there was a 99.9% chance Caspian ran home to file a crying report. If he went 24 hours without snitching on me, the universe's simulation would probably glitch. Unfortunately, dodging this was impossible. Tomorrow was my dad's birthday, and he was officially demanding an audience with us. She did not cringe once. Instead, she practically vibrated with excitement, instantly plotting what ridiculously expensive gifts to buy. She even analyzed her look in the mirror. Evander, should I get a blowout? Oh, maybe I should buy one of those tragically modest floral dresses for this. It is my first time meeting your parents. I absolutely have to serve that perfect daughter-in-law energy. Watching her practically tap dance with excitement made me shake my head in pure exhaustion. Babe, please lower the bar. Keep it down in the basement. My dad and stepmom are going to profoundly disappoint you. Even professional nitpickers look like saints compared to them. Relax, I am pretty confident in my charm, she beamed. Plus, anyone who made a gorgeous specimen like you cannot be all bad. They are going to absolutely obsess over me. Seeing that I was still highly skeptical, Seraphina suddenly channeled the seductive charm of a nine-tailed fox spirit. She launched an all-out romantic attack until I was pinned against the wall, waving a white flag, yelling, "Okay, I believe you. You are the undisputed queen. And my parents will worship you." Only after my complete surrender did she spare my life. The next day for our grand arrival, Seraphina made sure her chauffeur drove us in a giant luxury SUV, which was literally stuffed to the ceiling with premium gifts. My dad and stepmom were already waiting in the living room. Look at them looking like final video game bosses ready for combat. But, hit with her truckload of insanely expensive bribes, her stunning looks, killer figure, and Ivy League brains, and her massive billionaire background, their entire defense immediately collapsed. They had literally zero ammunition to use against her. "Well, our Evander really is just a blind cat who stumbled upon a glorious dead rat," my dad mused. That was his bizarre way of admitting she was way out of my league. It was just the typical, classic family script. If I succeed, it is just luck, but if I fail, I get completely crucified by them. Honestly, I was totally numb to this routine. "Whatever, Dad," I muttered. "Since even you think she is acceptable, hand over the family registry booklet." "I am taking her to the government office to lock this marriage down," I said, holding my hand out. It was high time to stop playing hard to get. She had already poured so much effort into us. Honestly, if my own pathetic insecurities had not been screaming that she was too good to be true, I would have married her months ago. Hearing this, my dad scowled deeply. He coldly stated that he consulted a fortune teller, and our astrological signs clash violently. A marriage would be a disaster? Honestly, I was completely floored. Yet, my dad still pulled some cosmic astrology garbage out of thin air just to block our wedding. But the real twist was just starting. My dad shifted his gaze to Caspian, his face suddenly blooming with fatherly pride. According to him, Caspian and Seraphina had birth charts that aligned flawlessly. They complement each other like yin and yang, a match crafted by the gods, destined for a house full of happy kids. The warm smile instantly vanished from his face as he turned back to look at me. He told me to be a good big brother and just hand Seraphina over to Caspian. I stared at him in disbelief. "Are you kidding me?" An Arctic chill violently seized my spine as I struggled to process his sheer insanity. I started shivering, questioning if there was a tragic hospital mix-up when I was born. He always weaponized the phrase that as the big brother, I had to yield. I yielded my toys, my favorite snacks, new jackets, and sneakers to that little parasite. I swallowed all that garbage. But now, they were treating my living, breathing fiancé like some hand-me-down game console they could just pass to my younger brother. My face turned to stone as I stood up. Over my dead body. Not happening. My father leveled an angry finger at me and roared, calling me an ungrateful brat. "Are you really this stingy?" I opened my mouth to unleash decades of repressed rage, but Caspian suddenly interrupted with a loud, "Oops." I whipped around and saw Caspian holding a pretty heavy ceramic teapot. He was supposedly trying to pour some tea for Seraphina, but miraculously spilled a hot splash directly onto her skirt, right near her waist. "Oh my God, I am so sorry, sister-in-law. Let me wipe that off for you right away." Grabbing a napkin, he chanted apologies like a mantra, his creepy eyes gleaming with degenerate excitement as his hand darted straight toward her lap. Seraphina flawlessly blocked his incoming hand and snatched the napkin, telling him she was perfectly capable of wiping her own clothes. Honestly, he was only still breathing because my dad was sitting right there. Normally, Seraphina's reaction to unwanted physical contact involved a lot more blunt force trauma. But Caspian, with the self-awareness of a turnip, shamelessly leaned closer, saying a soggy skirt would be super uncomfortable. "Get ready for this." He actually lunged again, but she quickly spotted a wooden feather duster resting nearby. Seraphina casually grabbed it and unleashed a pretty swift, painful strike directly onto his encroaching hand. Caspian shrieked like a stepped-on dog, crying about why his sister-in-law had hit him. Seraphina immediately clasped her hands together with a face of innocent horror, apologizing profusely. She claimed she just reflexively tried to block him and did not mean to use so much brute force. Watching Caspian frantically blow cool air on the bright, angry red welt swelling across his hand, I had to visualize a depressing slideshow just to stop myself from bursting into hysterical laughter, keeping a perfect poker face. Offering him some dripping fake sympathy, I said his sister-in-law totally did not mean to do it. He should probably go put some ointment on that. My stepmother scrambled to nod in agreement. She told him to go medicate it quickly before it left a tragic scar. Caspian wanted to whine more, but Seraphina grabbed my hand, asking me to escort her to the restroom. The stepmother frantically offered a brand new skirt, but Seraphina politely declined, calling her auntie. "A quick hairdryer blast would do the trick," she firmly stated. The truth? Seraphina was an extreme germaphobe. There was 0% chance she was letting another woman's clothes touch her skin. It meant absolutely nothing to her. After spending forever blow-drying her skirt, Seraphina grabbed my hand and demanded a grand tour of my bedroom. wanting to see where I grew up. Zero defense mechanisms. The woman was a total siren, and I had no defense. I fully understood how ancient emperors burned down entire kingdoms just to make their partners smile. My room was shoved into the deepest, darkest corner of the second floor, facing north, meaning it received zero direct sunlight for 360 days a year. My luxurious amenities included one sad, squeaky twin bed, a flimsy canvas wardrobe leaning at a 45-degree angle, and an ancient wobbly desk. Since I had not slept there in years, since nobody ever bothered cleaning this place, it was completely caked in dust, smelling heavily of a forgotten basement and pure misery. All that bubbly, tour guide energy completely drained out of Seraphina the very second I pushed the door open. Her face turns a bruised, icy color. She asks if I seriously lived here, and I just shrug helplessly. If I told anyone the truth, they would think I was lying. In a massive 2-story home with 5 luxury bedrooms, the eldest son was stuck bunking in a space that made a broom closet look like a 5-star suite. Seraphina squeezes my hand incredibly tight, her other hand balling into a fist until her knuckles turn bone white. She tells me, "Let's go." She says we are going to have a very loud chat with your parents. Who on earth raises a kid like this? Her eyes are practically glowing red with pure fury, instantly transforming from an annoyed girlfriend into a vengeful war goddess. I quickly rub circles on her back to disarm the bomb. Babe, let it go. Besides, I haven't slept in this dust trap since heading off to college. Even if the old man used to drunk dial me just to scream about me never visiting. Absolutely not. She seethes we are not just turning the page. She is drowning in massive buyer's remorse, muttering about how she wasted a whole truckload of luxury gifts on these awful monsters just to buy their approval. Seriously, stepping into this house was a total mistake. Not only did she have to deal with Caspian, but she also saw firsthand that my father treats me like absolute trash. Evander, this is completely my fault, she sniffles, her burning anger suddenly melting into pure guilt. You never talk about your family. I should have realized it was because they are monsters, she says. I wipe away a tear from her cheek and call her a big dummy. Why cry? You did nothing wrong. I am the one who hid this. You love me just as much as my late mother ever did. To me, you can do absolutely nothing wrong. Right then, Seraphina tackles me into a tight, bone-crushing hug. She tells me she was wrong for showing up in my life so late. But she promises that from this moment on, anyone who even breathes wrong in my direction will deeply regret being born. This terrifying threat is delivered with the aggressive, cute energy of an angry kitten. But make no mistake, I did not doubt her for a single second. Everyone else sees her as a cold, distant ice queen, but on the inside, she is a fierce guard dog protecting the people she loves. As we march back downstairs, Seraphina's face is locked in a terrifying, freezing stare. Look at the absolute savage that Evander dragged into our home. She almost crushed our precious Caspian's hand into hamburger meat. Before we even step off the stairs, my stepmother's screeching voice rings out, already trying to ruin Seraphina's reputation. Caspian, possessing the supersonic hearing of a rat, catches our light footsteps. With his back to us, he dramatically tells his mom to stop. He claims he is totally sure his sister-in-law did not mean to hurt him on purpose. My stepmother screeches about how just yesterday at the luxury pool, Caspian slipped and almost drowned, blaming Evander for physically holding her back from saving him. I freeze right on the stairs, actually pretty amused by the wild fantasy world Caspian is building up. Seraphina's entire aura darkens into something truly terrifying. Honestly, I have never seen her look this genuinely murderous. She lifts a foot, totally ready to march down and destroy them. I quickly pull her arm back and give her a tiny shake of my head. Wait, I signal. Let them dig their own graves. Suddenly, my dad, totally lost, starts demanding to know who slipped and drowned. We calmly walk into the living room, keeping our eyes locked right on Caspian. I flash a bright, completely innocent smile, asking Caspian to please tell us all about this tragic little drowning accident. We are dying to hear the details. Pure panic instantly flashes across his face as he forces a laugh and waves his good hand. He stammers that it is all just a massive misunderstanding. Caspian claims it was just a chaotic moment, saying he knows deep down I would never watch him die. Meanwhile, the stepmother whispers some fresh, nasty poison into my dad's ear. Instantly, the old man erupts in a volcanic rage. Caspian plays the victim, begging his parents to just drop it. He mutters that his brother did not mean to almost kill him. My dad leaps off the couch and violently shoves me in the chest, yelling at Caspian for defending a monster like me. He screams that Caspian practically swallowed the whole pool. The sudden shove catches me off guard, sending me stumbling backward toward the hard floor. But Seraphina drops into a solid, sturdy stance and catches me perfectly. Leaning against her, I can literally feel her switching straight into full combat mode. She was radiating this absolute, terrifying wave of pure anime-style bloodlust right in that very room. After checking to make sure I was steady on my feet, Seraphina glared right at my stepmother, who was stomping over to start a fight. Without saying a single word, Seraphina delivered a lightning-fast Spartan kick straight to the woman's knee. Crack! My stepmother collapsed backward onto the couch in a groaning mess, pointing a shaking finger right at us. She was hyperventilating with a rage too intense for words, and that one kick completely short-circuited the brains of both my dad and Caspian. Both frozen, their jaws practically hit the floor. Seraphina spun around to face me, all that rage in her eyes immediately melting into total heartbreak. She told me, "Darling, let's go. We are never setting foot inside this miserable tomb ever again." We got halfway out the front door before their brains actually rebooted, and my dad screamed out, "You traitorous backstabber." "Stop right there," he bellowed, screaming until his throat went dry, but Seraphina kept dragging me out, totally ignoring his childish tantrum. Seeing us actually walk away, my father pulled out his absolute last desperate threat. "You want to leave?" he yelled. "Then forget about the family book. Let's see you get married without it." I stopped, slowly turning my head to take one last look at this absolutely pathetic circus act. If I knew you all still had the same brain rot, I would never have visited. Keep that stupid book. I am officially done. That dramatic exit felt insanely good, but the moment we got back to Seraphina's apartment, reality hit me like a ton of bricks. How are we supposed to get a marriage license without that family registry? Seraphina just took my hands and looked at me dead serious. "Darling," she said, "the government actually updated the system. We do not need that dusty old book. A simple ID card works fine." I gave her a pretty skeptical squint, asking if she was absolutely positive. She nodded with total confidence, telling me even if that rule did not exist, we could still get legally married without it. We would just have to fill out a massive mountain of annoying paperwork, that is all. Seeing her list every single alternative document like some kind of walking legal encyclopedia, I had a pretty strong feeling she had been studying how to legally lock me down for months. Honestly, I was just as desperate to marry her. Once the paperwork was done, I suggested we throw a really simple, low-key wedding. At first, Seraphina loved the simple idea, but then she remembered how toxic my family is. Watch what she plans next. Spite is a crazy motivator, because she completely changed her mind, demanding a massive wedding so incredibly grand it could be seen from space. Personally, I just wanted to elope somewhere else, keeping things completely stress-free, and avoid the absolute nightmare of making seating charts. But Seraphina quickly vetoed that, declaring we would travel for the honeymoon. The actual wedding needs absolute maximum effort. I started to argue, but she just puffed her cheeks into her classic, adorable pout. "Just let me plan everything, please. You literally will not have to lift a single finger. I will run the whole show. Your only job is to show up looking drop-dead gorgeous, and say I do." The very second she started sweet-talking me, my spine turned to absolute jelly. One moment I was terrified of a huge wedding, and the next I was convinced she was the absolute genius of party planning. We purposely left my dad and stepmother off the guest list. But because Seraphina's wedding was huge enough to need a city permit, they found out. Caspian and my stepmother immediately started a massive smear campaign, calling me a greedy leech who struck gold and abandoned his poor family. Can you believe the absolute nerve of these people? I truly did not have the energy to care, figuring since all bridges were completely burned, they would keep some basic dignity and never speak to me again for the rest of their lives. But of course, the shameless trio actually crashed our wedding, my dad walking in looking like some fake royalty. "Ever, my boy," he said, "I am your father. Did you really think I would miss your big day?" Caspian was standing right there with a giant grin, saying they only wanted to give us their very best blessings. "We have missed you guys so much." The only thing Caspian really wanted was a piece of Seraphina's massive fortune, and he had definitely planned this out. He wore a navy blue suit that was an exact copy of mine, making him look just like the actual groom from a distance. Seraphina and I were welcoming guests right near the entrance. The moment she noticed Caspian trying to dress exactly like me, she looked ready to absolutely murder him. She hissed at him, "Did you really think a rat like you could steal our spotlight? You have two choices. Crawl back to whatever sewer you came from or take that suit off right now," she warned. Caspian just flashed his pathetic puppy dog eyes. "You are so mean, sister-in-law. I only wore this to celebrate our brotherhood so everyone knows we are family," he whined. Usually, Seraphina acted like an incredibly elegant, high-class lady. Honestly, the second you push her too far, she goes full John Wick and we can all agree it is incredibly hot. Totally immune to his fake crying, she snapped her fingers and ordered security to manually throw him out. Caspian watched a literal wall of muscle advance on him. Then he realized one of the guards was the exact same eager swim coach who had pulled his naked butt out of the pool. Every bit of color drained from his face. He practically scrambled on all fours to hide behind his mother's skirt. The stepmother froze up, but managed to force out an incredibly strained, fake smile. "My dear daughter-in-law, today is a day for joyful celebration. Let us not let Caspian's silly fashion disaster ruin this beautiful vibe," she said, before turning to her precious son and hissing, "Sweetie, run to the restroom and change your clothes this instant." While elite guests flooded the banquet hall, Seraphina used all her willpower to not order an orbital strike on my family. But expecting Caspian to behave was like expecting a shark to go vegan. It simply was not in his DNA. With just minutes left before the grand march, pre-wedding jitters hit my bladder, and I darted into the restroom. Like a creepy shadow, Caspian slipped in right after me. He had not changed his clothes. Even worse, he had slathered his hair in cheap gel to completely copy my exact style. Looking closely though, his knockoff suit looked painfully cheap. Then I remembered my suit did not have a visible tag because it was completely bespoke, custom tailored in Europe to fit my body perfectly down to the millimeter. It was breathable, flawless, and felt like a second skin. Of course, you would only notice the massive difference if you were standing inches away or wearing it. From 10 feet away in the dim lighting, this psychopath looked like my clone. I demanded to know what his endgame was on my wedding day. Staring at a cheap imposter trying to steal my identity would make any normal person mad, and I was no exception. Caspian stood proudly right in front of the mirrors, flicking his gelled hair with a sickening smirk. He sneered. "What does it look like? Bro, I am doing exactly what you think. I am pulling the ultimate bait and switch," he said. "I am going out there to claim Seraphina as my bride." I was honestly amazed by his sheer stupidity. Did his brain just stop growing in the womb? Seraphina is a hopeless romantic who violently rejects any man that is not me. Did he really think she would not spot a fake? A highly punchable, wicked grin spread right across Caspian's face. Then suddenly, his face lit up in a warm smile as he called out to Seraphina. Instinctively, I whipped my head toward the door. Nobody was there. Oh crap, I groaned inside my head. Capitalizing on my distraction, Caspian bolted out like a greased pig and locked the door. Then I heard the screech of heavy furniture dragging across the tile floor. Seriously, this guy belongs in a straitjacket. The complete madman was actually barricading the door against me. He would not get within 10 meters of the altar before Seraphina realized she was looking at a cheap knockoff of her fiancé. Still, the mere thought of my wedding being ruined made me physically sick. To make things even worse, I had left my phone with the groomsmen outside. This restroom was tucked deep in the back corner of the hotel. I could scream until my throat bled, and nobody outside would hear a thing. When I first came in here, the ceremony was less than 30 minutes away. As the clock ticked down, I slammed my whole body weight against the heavy wooden door, but the barricade held completely firm. Right when I was about to fall into complete despair, the door burst open. Seraphina stood there in the doorway, glowing in the light like some gorgeous angel descending from heaven. I asked how she knew I was trapped, but she immediately dropped to her knees, frantically brushing off my suit pants in total panic. She asked if my legs were okay, if I hurt myself, and if she should delay the ceremony. I quickly pulled her back up to her feet. Her wildly expensive, custom Vera Wang gown would look terrible in the wedding photos if she ruined it cleaning the floor. She scoffed, calling my brother a subhuman trash bag. The moment she laid eyes on him, she knew he was cooking up some ridiculous cartoon villain plan. She had 3 guards trailing him, and she was seething so hard her perfectly painted lips were practically vibrating with pure rage. I always figured her behavior was just her being hopelessly, deeply obsessed with me. But man, she was playing 4D chess. Then a thought hit me. Where is the imposter now? Seraphina locked her arm through mine, flashing a pretty chilling, evil smile. Since the rat wanted to get married so badly, I kindly granted his wish, she said. Tapping her phone, she pulled up a live security feed. She booked a cheap, ultra-budget banquet hall down on the first floor, fully ready to go. You have to see this screen. It was a totally depressing, poorly lit venue. Suddenly, a woman with the exact same height and build as Seraphina walked onto a cheap red carpet, wearing a heavy wedding gown. This fake venue was absolutely tiny, barely fitting 7 or 8 cheap round tables. For context, our massive ballroom upstairs was currently holding a casual 188 tables. My dad and stepmother got quietly escorted straight down to those VIP budget tables. Looking at their deeply disgusted, sour faces on the live stream, they were clearly horrified by how cheap their billionaire daughter-in-law's wedding turned out to be. Before they could start complaining to some non-existent manager, the wedding music started playing. Caspian and this fake Seraphina stepped out from opposite sides of the tragic little aisle, slowly walking toward each other. Because Caspian was trying so hard to hide his face, he kept his head buried low. Meanwhile, the fake bride's face was completely hidden behind a super thick, heavy veil. As soon as the fake priest hurried through the vows, the paid actors in the crowd started cheering and chanting for them to kiss. Feeling a rush of victory, his hands literally shaking with excitement, Caspian slowly reached out and peeled back that heavy veil. But the second he saw his new wife's face, Caspian's soul literally left his body. He let out a loud shriek, shoved her away, and screamed that she wasn't Seraphina, demanding to know who she was. He called her a cheap fake, while she stared back with real, tragic sadness. She asked if he forgot that rainy afternoon he came into the salon for a trim, before she suddenly shifted gears, blushing red and giggling behind her hand, whispering that it's been about 3 weeks, and oops, her test came back positive. They're pregnant. While that absolute train wreck exploded downstairs, my family tried to run, only to find the doors padlocked tight from the outside. Meanwhile, up in the penthouse, our real wedding was a masterpiece of pure luxury. Seraphina definitely didn't lie. She had handcrafted every single tiny detail. I honestly just stood there looking handsome, basically acting as her gorgeous mascot. She casually hired major pop stars to sing live for us before changing into a stunning, leggy reception dress to party the entire night away. Only after the last bottle of champagne was empty and the billionaire guests had left did Seraphina finally decide to unlock that basement dungeon. Caspian rushed upstairs like a total madman, screaming at Seraphina for ruining his innocent reputation, while my wife just recoiled, looking like she wanted to throw up right then and there. She asked who gave a peasant like him permission to speak her name, telling him to back up before she sanitized the air. My dad, practically shaking with rage, stomped over to us and growled. He told Seraphina to reconsider the marriage, claiming Caspian was way more independent than someone like me. He even claimed I was hiding a dark secret, telling her I was medically broken and completely infertile. For years, my dad had always played favorites with Caspian, but actually lying about my health to destroy my marriage? That was a disgusting new low. Even wild animals protect their own kids. Once again, I seriously caught myself hoping I was switched at birth in some hospital. But wait for it, they completely underestimated my wife's absolute steel spine. Lacing her arm through mine, she stood nearly 1.8 meters tall in her lethal heels. Looking right down her nose at my dad, she snapped that whether her husband could have kids was absolutely none of his business. As long as she got to wake up next to me, she was more than happy to enjoy a child-free life. Besides, a screaming toddler would totally ruin their perfect, romantic vibe anyway. Seeing that she was completely untouchable, my dad quickly turned, desperately trying to manipulate my new father-in-law, begging him to talk some actual sense into his daughter, asking what use a broken man was if he couldn't even pass down their family legacy. What my clueless father just couldn't understand was exactly where Seraphina got her fiercely savage streak from. Her own dad let out a massive laugh. "I'm running a company, pal, not some medieval kingdom," he sneers. "I couldn't care less if our bloodline ends tomorrow. If they want to have kids, great. If not, whatever. Hell, if she wants her tubes tied on this dance floor, I'll hand her the scissors myself." That epic speech completely fried my father's brain. He stood there completely out of arguments. But watch this. Right on cue, a squad of serious-looking police officers marched through the doors. The lead officer immediately barked out, "Which one of you is Caspian?" Seeing those badges, the guy looked like he'd seen a ghost. Total panic took over his face. I glanced over at Seraphina. She stood tall like a totally proud peacock, her face practically screaming a neon message, "Worship my genius." Seraphina marched right to the police, pulled out her phone, and played the high-definition security footage. "Officers, this absolute creep maliciously tried to steal my identity and hijack my wedding. He also locked my poor husband inside a tiny, claustrophobic restroom, causing him profound, irreversible mental and physical trauma, and I'm pressing full charges for fraud, unlawful detainment, and assault. Let's make this official. I refuse any compromise, and I absolutely do not want his dirty settlement cash. Lock him up." Confronted by a wealthy heiress's rage and clear 4K video proof, the police had to drag Caspian away for questioning. Realizing this was no joke and he was actually going to jail, Caspian hid behind my dad like a terrified little kid. "Dad, help me, do something. I was just playing a silly, harmless prank on my own brother. I cannot go to jail." Right then, my stepmother threw herself in front of Seraphina, sobbing loudly. "Please, show some mercy," she begs. "Let your foolish brother off just this once." Seeing Seraphina's face stay completely frozen, my stepmother spun around to me and pleaded, "Evander, speak up. If he gets a record, his life is over." My dad scrambled over next, looking totally desperate. "Seraphina, be reasonable. If Caspian becomes a felon, it will completely ruin our family's clean background. Your kids won't even be allowed to get good government jobs. I am begging you as your father-in-law." "Wait," Seraphina interrupted, her voice incredibly cold. "Didn't you just spend the last 10 minutes screaming that Evander is completely infertile?" My father's face turned bright red as he tripped over his own lies. "I was just talking crazy. Please, don't listen to that. Caspian cannot go to prison, I beg you." And then, the old man dropped onto the marble floor. He actually bowed. I was shocked. Even if he was awful, seeing an older family member kneel like that is a heavy mental burden. Seraphina quickly stepped aside, refusing to let him bow right in front of her. She looked at me, shaking her head with a dark laugh. "Evander, your dad is quite a character. He's begging on his knees, destroying his pride for the son of his worst enemy." "Dad," she mocked quietly, "I almost respect you. You've got incredible patience, raising another man's child with so much love." With a nod, her bodyguards pulled my shaking father off the floor, while she calmly handed him a manila folder. I didn't see what was inside, but the instant my father read that first page, he absolutely lost it. Letting out a wild scream, he lunged straight for my stepmother's throat. "You crazy witch," he screamed. "You brought that other guy's kid into my home. You fooled me into raising another man's kid for 20 years. What a crazy plot twist." And get this, Seraphina's private investigators discovered that Caspian has 0% of my father's DNA. He was actually the secret child of her old boyfriend, and she simply tricked my dad into believing he was the biological father. Honestly, what normal guy randomly gets a DNA test on his own son? The poor guy wasted 20 years of cash and love on someone else's kid. I actually felt a tiny bit of pity for him. Caspian rushed to pull my father off his screaming mom, yelling, "Dad, are you crazy? What are you doing?" That word sent him over the edge. The old man grabbed Caspian's collar and shook him hard. "You filthy little parasite. Never call me your father. You do not carry my blood." I was literally sitting here agonizing over how my own flesh and blood could be such a backstabbing snake who tried to steal his brother's wife. Turns out, you are just living up to the legacy of your scumbag biological dad. My dad completely lost his mind. If the police had not physically pinned him to the carpet, we probably would have ended up with a double homicide. Once Caspian was stuffed into the back of a squad car, my dad slumped against the wall, completely broken. Pathetic tears streamed down his wrinkled face. "Evander, my boy, I was wrong. I was just so incredibly wrong." I shook my head, feeling absolutely nothing. "Dad, you put food on my plate and kept a roof over my head. For that, I will direct deposit a monthly allowance into your bank account. But that is the absolute limit of our relationship. Unless you are literally actively dying, lose my number." With that epic mic drop, I grabbed Seraphina's hand and we walked out into the night. Believe me, the fallout was incredibly swift. My dad filed for an aggressive, scorched-earth divorce shortly after. As for Caspian, once the police started digging, they unearthed a massive graveyard of dark secrets. Turns out he had been running romance scams for years, ripping off multiple women for hundreds of thousands of dollars. With all those charges stacked up, the judge handed him a very cozy 9-year prison sentence. The day that verdict was read in court, my stepmother dramatically fainted. Talk about instant cosmic karma. The hospital ran tests and diagnosed her with stage 4 kidney failure. We love to see it. I genuinely did not care enough to even ask. Thankfully, since Caspian was legally and biologically proven to have 0% relation to me, his shiny new felony record would not ruin the background checks of any future kids Seraphina and I might have. Now, flash forward to the bridal suite. As the first light of dawn cracked through the curtains, I found myself literally crawling across the carpet toward the master bathroom, completely drained of all my life force. It finally made perfect sense why women only wear those stunning wedding gowns once in a lifetime. If Seraphina demanded a vow renewal in that dress every single year, my fragile mortal body would simply not survive the honeymoon phase. The end.